Have you ever felt like your past is a weight you carry with you everywhere? Like those memories, those mistakes, those moments of pain are somehow still dictating your present? You're certainly not alone. I've been there too, and so have countless others who are watching this right now. The interesting thing about our relationship with the past is that while we intellectually understand we can't change it, emotionally we often remain tethered to it. Today, we're going to explore something that's rarely discussed in depth. Not just why we should let go of the past, but the actual psychological mechanics of how to do it effectively. And I promise, by the end of this video, I'll share some insights about releasing the past that most people never consider. The process of letting go isn't about forgetting or pretending something never happened. It's about reclaiming your power over how those past events continue to affect you today. What I've discovered through years of research and personal experience is that there are specific mental shifts that make this process not just possible, but transformative in ways most people don't anticipate. Let's start with understanding why we stay attached to our past in the first place. The human mind has evolved to learn from experiences. It's a survival mechanism. When something painful happens, our brain creates strong neural pathways to help us avoid similar situations in the future. This is useful when the lesson is don't touch that hot stove again, but becomes problematic when the lesson becomes never trust anyone again or you're not capable of success. These broader conclusions become embedded in identity, and that's where the real challenge begins. What makes this particularly difficult is that holding onto the past often serves a purpose, even if that purpose is no longer serving us. Sometimes we hold on to past hurts because they validate our current worldview. Other times, we cling to past identities, who we were in our glory days, because we're uncertain about who we are now. And perhaps most commonly, we remain attached to past regrets because on some level, we believe that ruminating on them is a form of penance, a way of making sure we never repeat those mistakes. But here's what happens when we don't let go. Our past experiences create a lens through which we view all new experiences. If you've been betrayed and haven't processed that pain, you might interpret neutral actions from others as signs of potential betrayal. Our past doesn't just influence our thoughts. It shapes what we notice, what we expect, and ultimately, what we create in our lives. The first significant step in letting go is changing our relationship with memories themselves. Most people think of memories as accurate recordings of what happened. They're not. Every time you recall a memory, your brain essentially recreates it, and in that recreation process, the memory changes slightly. Neuroscientists call this reconsolidation. This isn't a bug in our cognitive system, it's actually an opportunity. It means that you can intentionally reshape how you hold your memories by focusing on different aspects of those experiences when you recall them. For example, if you've been fixating on a moment of failure, can you expand that memory to include what you learned from that experience? Can you remember how you showed resilience afterward? This doesn't mean fabricating false positives. It means broadening the memory to include the full truth, not just the painful highlights your mind has been obsessively replaying. The second key element is understanding the role of narrative in our lives. We are storytelling creatures. The stories we tell about our past, why things happened, what they mean about us, what they suggest about our future. These aren't objective truths. They're interpretations. And if an interpretation is causing you ongoing suffering, you have every right to question it. I worked with someone who had carried the story, "My divorce proves I'm unlovable," for nearly a decade. Through our work together, she began to consider alternative narratives. Perhaps the divorce showed she had the courage to leave a situation that wasn't right for either person. Perhaps it demonstrated her growth and evolution as a person. When she allowed herself to try on these alternative narratives, something remarkable happened. The past event stayed the same, but its emotional grip on her present began to loosen. Before I continue with the third crucial element of letting go, I want to take a quick moment to connect with you all. If you're finding value in this deeper exploration of how our minds work and how we can free ourselves from patterns that no longer serve us, please consider subscribing to this channel and clicking that notification bell. I'm committed to bringing you content that goes beyond surface-level advice, diving into the psychological mechanisms that create real, lasting change. Your subscription helps make these conversations possible, And I'd love to have you join our community of people committed to meaningful personal growth. Now, let's talk about the third element of letting go, emotional processing. Many of us were never taught how to properly process emotions, especially difficult ones like grief, shame, or regret. We try to think our way out of emotional pain, analyzing it endlessly, or we attempt to bypass it altogether, pushing it down and focusing on positive thinking. But neither approach works in the long run. Emotions need to be felt to be released. This doesn't mean wallowing indefinitely, but it does mean creating space to actually experience the emotion in your body. Where do you feel shame in your physical form? Is it a tightness in your chest? A heaviness in your stomach? When you locate these sensations and bring gentle attention to them without judgment, something surprising happens. They begin to shift and eventually dissolve. This practice of emotional processing must be paired with self-compassion. Many of us are far harder on ourselves than we would ever be on someone we love. We replayed our mistakes with a cruel internal narrator that would be unacceptable if directed at anyone else. Self-compassion isn't self-indulgence. Research has consistently shown that people who practice self-compassion are more likely to take responsibility for their actions and make necessary changes than those who are self-critical. Harsh self-judgment keeps us stuck. Compassion creates the safety needed for growth and letting go. The fourth component of truly moving forward is perhaps the most challenging: forgiveness. And I don't just mean forgiving others, though that's certainly part of it. I mean forgiving yourself. Many people resist self-forgiveness because they confuse it with condoning actions they regret. But forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's about releasing the burden of resentment, including self-resentment. Forgiveness is also not a one-time event. It's a practice, sometimes a daily one. You might forgive yourself or someone else today, only to find the resentment has crept back tomorrow. That's normal. Just gently return to the practice of consciously choosing to release that burden again. Over time, it becomes easier. What I've found is that forgiveness often follows understanding. When we deeply understand our own motivations at the time of our mistakes, how we were doing the best we could with the awareness, resources, and emotional capacity we had been, forgiveness becomes a natural response. The same applies to understanding others. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it helps us release the emotional charge those behaviors have on our present. Finally, letting go requires creating a compelling vision for your future that is stronger than your attachment to the past. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you remove your focus from past regrets without redirecting it toward future possibilities, you'll likely find yourself pulled back into old thought patterns. What are you moving toward? What are you creating now? Who are you becoming? These forward-focused questions help cement a letting go process. What most people never realize about letting go is that it isn't something you do once. It's a practice, a skill that you develop over time. Some days will be easier than others. Some aspects of your past may take longer to release than others. The goal isn't perfect detachment from all painful memories. That would be inhuman. The goal is freedom from being controlled by those memories, the ability to acknowledge the past without being defined by it. As we wrap up today's exploration, I want to leave you with this thought. Letting go is not an abandonment of your past, but a deeper integration of it. When you can hold your experiences, even the painful ones, with compassion and understanding, they transform from burdens into wisdom. They become part of your story without dictating your future chapters. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. What has been your experience with letting go of past events? What strategies have worked for you, or what are you still struggling with? Share in the comments below. Your insights might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you found value in this video, please give it a like. It helps more people discover this content. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more in-depth discussions about the psychological mechanisms behind personal growth and transformation. Also, be sure to check the description below for additional resources to support your journey and ways you can support this channel. Remember, your past has shaped you, but it doesn't have to define you. The power to write the next chapter has always been and will always be in your hands. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.